Hi and welcome to the Code channel. As I promised you, today we begin this series of how to create from scratch and step by step the e-commerce website for the sale of clothes that you see right now on your screens. In this first chapter of the series, we will see how to program the classic responsive Hamburger style web menu using PHP, CSS, and a little tweak with Javascript. So let's go for it and start programming. Well, the first thing we will have to do is configure our setup to program comfortably. The first thing we will do is go to our 3W folder within WAM server to create our project. WAM server is the application that I use to upload my files to a local server on my system. It is totally free, and if you want to know how to install and use it, you can go to the tutorial that we have on the channel where we explain it step by step. As you can see, I already have my folder here created under the name Hamburger Web Menu. It is important that this name does not contain any space. If we open it, we see that I also have some folders and files created within this project. In the first one, we see the icons for the cart, as you can see here, and the hamburger menu. If we go back to the main folder, we see that we have our styles subfolder with a main style sheet and another for the menu. And here our PHP files with our index.php from what we will call the PHP menu. The next thing we will do is start WAM server and open our browser that we have configured by default. Inside this browser, we will write the URL localhost / the name of our project to load it into the local server. As you can see, nothing appears because we have not started to program anything yet. And to finish, what we will do is go to our code editor. In this case, I use Visual Studio Code. Again, you also have a tutorial in the channel where I explain step by step how to install and use it. Within Visual Studio Code, we'll go to the File Explorer and open the folder of our project by going to Windows C, WAM64, 3W, and select our project here. We click on Select Folder, and as you can see, it refreshes and our project with all the files has already been loaded here. Another important step also before starting to program is to deactivate the cache memory of our browser. We will do this from the inspector in the Network tab by checking the Disable Cache box. What will happen is that sometimes we will make some changes to our code, but when we refresh the web, we will not be able to visualize them. However, by making this modification, we will not have any problem with it. We can start programming, and the first thing we are going to do is open our index.php and create a basic HTML structure. For this, we will type HTML:5 and press enter. As you can see, this structure will automatically be generated, and we will simply have to make a couple of modifications to it. We will change the title of the file to home, and we will also include the main style sheet styles CSS. As you can see in this sheet, I have simply imported the Google Fonts Martel font with the @import, and then I have added basic styles to the titles H, paragraphs, and links. Here, as you can see, the asterisk instruction refers to all the elements of the code, body, header, sections, divs, etc., to which I give a margin padding and border 0 by default. And to finish with the index.php, we will include in the body the code that we are going to write in our menu PHP file through the include command, in which we will specify the path of menu.php. In this case, you see that it is at the same level as index.php, so we just type menu.php. In this way, every time we create a new page in our project, we will not have to be copying and pasting the menu code because we will be importing it with this line from the menu PHP file, and we will have a much cleaner, professional, and orderly project. Finished at our index.php, we go to the menu file, where we will begin to program our own menu. As you can see here, I have already included the link to the menu CSS style sheet, which is currently empty. The first thing we will do is add a tag header, within which we will include a div with the ID menu. Inside this div is where we will add the elements of our menu, which, as you have seen, consist of three parts: the navigation bar, the web logo, and the shopping cart. To create the dropdowns, we will type a structure formed by an input type checkbox to which we will give an ID and a name, and a label tag that will refer to the input and that will contain the icon. As we have not yet added any style, I block the icon path and add an alt attribute so you can see it better. What we obtain with this structure is that when the user clicks on the label, that is, the icon, the input checkbox will be marked or unmarked, so that when it is marked, the dropdown will appear, and when it is unchecked, it is disappear again. We copy this same structure for the cart drop-down menu, changing the IDs, names, and icons. In addition, within this, apart from adding the icon, we will also include a div with an h3 that will serve as a counter for the items in the cart. Now, as we have not yet programmed the cart, we will put 0. And between both structures, we add a div with ID start, where we will place the logo of the web page. In my case, I am going to write an H1, but you can add an image, video, or whatever you want. With this, we will have created the three elements of our menu, but as you can see, everything is messy and quite ugly, so it's time to apply a few styles from our menu CSS file. First of all, we are going to add the class icons to the icons of the labels, and in the styles CSS sheet, we are going to give them a width and height of 35 pixels each. If you use other icons or different images, you should try to see what size is the best fit for your project. In the case of the cart, the icon class is located on the label so that when adding animations, they are also applied to the counter. Now we unlock the path of the images and we can display the icons correctly. The first thing we will modify in our menu CSS file will be the header, to which we will add a position fixed and a set index 100, so that when scrolling the web page, it always remains fixed to the upper edge of the screen above the other elements. A width of 100% and a white background. For the div hashtag menu, we will apply a display flex, which will make the elements it contains are positioned horizontally from the beginning of the div, occupying their size. Next, we will add the justify content space between property, so that the elements are distributed horizontally, leaving the same space between them. And finally, a height of 80 pixels and a margin on the left and right of 3%. In order not to see the input checkbox, we will apply it to hashtag menu bar and hashtag cart bar display none. We continue with the labels of the menu and the div start, to which we will impose a width fit content so that they can only occupy the same width as the elements they contain. Display flex, in case as in the cart inside the element label we have more than one element so that they are distributed horizontally, and we will also indicate that they occupy the entire height of the menu, are placed vertically centered, and the set index 101 so that they can be seen above the header. An important detail is that when the user places the mouse over a button, link, element intended to trigger an action, the cursor changes and instead of being an arrow, it becomes a hand. We'll achieve this by applying the cursor pointing attribute to the header labels and the start ID. Next, we add hover effects to both the icons and the logo. To do this, we will assign a transition duration of 0.3 seconds and then to each one, depending on the size, a transform scale. And to conclude, we will modify the card counter a little, which will have a size of 20 per 20 pixels, It will be circular, we apply border radius 100%, and it will have a linear gradient fill on the left to right, and its text will be white. The basic structure of the menu is ready. Now we only need to include the drop-downs along with the elements that they will contain. For this we will create a div with a custom ID under each label tag. In the case of the nav bar, we will assign an ID nav, and inside this we will add another div with the class nav items that will contain the links. This project, as it is a simple website, will only have two links to the About Us and Contact section. And on the other hand, in the case of the card, we will create a new div with ID card, and for now we will only add an H3 that says that the cart is empty. Later we will make a specific video dedicated to the shopping cart. If we visualize the changes, we see that everything has become disorganized again. Do not worry because it is normal, and we will fix it by applying the styles. Back in our CSS, we are going to start modifying the nav. To do this, we type #nav and open keys. Inside this, we will add the first attribute position absolute so that the dropdown is placed above all the elements of the page. We will add a width of 100%, height of 100 VH, that is, it occupies the entire screen, and a background color white, left 0 and padding top of 80 pixels so that the div begins fixed to the left edge and the content begins to be seen below the menu bar. In addition, we will add an overflow Y scroll, so that if we insert a lot of content, it can be seen by scrolling with the mouse, and a transition all 0.5 seconds, that will define the time it will take for the transition to occur. We apply the same attributes to the div #carrito. As for the elements of the dropdowns, we will also apply some basic styles and a hover as you see on the screen. If you want the same result as in this project, you can pause and copy them. And now we specify only for #nav transform translate -100%, which will cause the nav div to be placed off the screen to the left by default. We copy and paste the same code for #carrito, but instead of -100, we introduce the positive value so that it is placed on the right side of the screen out of the user's field of vision. To define the animation, we will simply have to copy two lines of code. We call our input with the ID that we have defined for it, in this case #menu bar for the browser, and we type :checked, asking if it is marked. In this case, we will write prime and call the #nav dropdown, to which we will modify the transform attribute translate x 0%. What we are doing is very similar to an if structure in CSS, asking if the input menu bar is checked, and if so, applying a change to #nav that in this case will appear on the screen from the left. We replicate the same animation for #carrito. And with this, we will have finished our Hamburger web menu. As you can see, thanks to the fact that we have used a flexbox model, the menu responds correctly to changes in screen size. But if we want to make any changes such as changing the font size, we can use the add media command. In this case, we are going to change the size of the titles and paragraphs when the screen dimensions are less than 480 pixels. As you can see, we simply change them a bit, and if we refresh the browser and from the inspector we access the dimensions of the device, we can see the changes. If you have reached this part of the video, I hope you like it and it was helpful. If so, do not forget to leave your like, comment and subscribe, as it helps us a lot to know which videos you like and if you want to see a specific tutorial in the future. Well, with this we will have finished our response site Hamburger menu. However, we can still add one more adjustment to make it a totally professional menu. If you pay attention to the final web page, you see that the links that I have placed in the menu redirect to sections that are on the same page index.php. As we have programmed the menu, if we replicate the same structure, we see that when we click on the link, the menu remains displayed, preventing us from seeing what was happening or if we have been correctly redirected to the link. This can be a problem, as it will cause confusion for the user. To solve it, we will create a new folder within the project called JS, and we will open a new file within it that we will call menu.js. In it, we will declare two variables. The first one will store all the links that the dropdown contains using query selector all. For this, we must also add the class nav.link to all the links in the menu. And we will initialize the second variable with the input checkbox of the menu that has the ID #menubar. Then we will add a listener event to each of the links that the nav items variable contains, so that each time the user clicks on these links, the input checkbox is unchecked by using the method checkbox.checked equals to false. And now our menu works great and professionally. And this has been all for today. With this video we complete the first chapter of the series How to Program an e-commerce webpage for clothing from scratch. We hope you liked the video and it has helped you. If you have had a problem following the tutorial, do not hesitate to leave it below in the comments and we will try to respond as soon as possible to solve it. And remember that you can also subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any episode of this series. See you in the next video. Bye!